Hi, folks. Thanks for joining the community breakout room. Sorry for the Zoom snafu. So appreciate your patience. And I think we'll get started as soon as all the folks who want to be in the community room are able to enter. So thank you so much again for your patience. We'll probably be a few more minutes before we get started.
Well, I'm in the room already. Thank you.
Okay. And Mia just put the AHA link in the chat. So feel free to open that up. No need to get started on it just yet, because I think Marlita will do a little bit of an introduction and then we'll get started. But let us know if you're having any AHA issues.
The AHA link is in the chat, right?
Yes, it's in the chat, and then momentarily we'll start sharing the screen. So if you want to scan a QR code instead of using the link, we'll be able to offer that as well.
This worked so well earlier. What is going on here?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We have the best room, so I appreciate you all being here. And so there's maybe 3 or 4 more people joining, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. You did hear that we have about 30 minutes. And our goal is to try to move with conversation through the slides, because we want to maximize your ability to provide feedback and content and thoughts. But then if we want to have, because we'll move so expeditiously, we can have a little more robust conversation, we can do that as well. Does that work for you all? It does work. Okay, great. Are you all tired? You're excited? You're feeling energized? Like, what's the room? Is it up here? Is it here? Or is it here? Like, where are we? You're here? Okay, I was feeling that you all were here. So, okay, I'm picking up on that. All right. Oh, somebody's very encouraged. You made it to the room. That's great. Tired, but the training was good. Middle vibe. Okay, excellent. Hey, Chanel. So, as you all heard, so, we had a chance to introduce ourselves in the chat. We sacrificed having a little more dialogue because of the size of the group. But let's go ahead and see if we can get our AHA slides up. And we have our friends from Health and Medicine helping us stay on target. And so that's wonderful. Thank you guys for being in the room too.
Can everyone see my screen and see the AHA slides and see that there's the QR code as well as the link listed above and the answers coming in? Okay, beautiful.
All right, so let's just really quickly make sure, because I saw that some people were in the earlier breakout rooms and some people weren't. So I'll just run through really quickly the goals for the breakout conversations. And as you can see, they're segmented by sectors or disciplines and areas of work. But generally, we're looking to generate community-driven solutions or solutions based on, which group we're in, that would serve to advance trauma-informed healing center transformation, whether that's in the health arena, in education, youth services, criminal and legal systems, and communities. You all are in the community conversation. So what we want to do is to do some reflection as you are through the day, but also in what you brought into the room today as well. Reflect on where we are as a state as a city, you know, where you are, because all of us have a different vantage point in the work. So reflect on where we are with respect to being trauma informed and healing centered and having that transformation work feel like it's moving forward. And what do you understand to be those needed and necessary next steps to push things forward? We do want to challenge our imagination. So this is the moment to think outside of the box or on the margins of the box, like wherever you are, but we don't want to be limited by what we were able to do so far. We want to think about how we can create equitable systems that are going to foster well-being and good health from the start. So we don't have to only think about how to repair systems, but also how we can bake a better cake. And then to connect with one another and us together and figure out how we keep learning and engaging each other moving forward. So you all can feel free to throw contact information in the chat if you like. We're just not going to assume, and we're not going to limit how you want to engage the other voices in the room. Does that make sense? Okay. So our first response. So what do you see as defining your role in the context of trauma-informed and healing center community? And so communities can be thought of as neighborhoods. So we know geographically, it can be groups of people who share that space with each other, or their roles might include, like maybe you're in the community because you're a service provider, or you're a faith leader, or you're a community organizer, Block Club captain. You know, we could keep going. So have you all, everyone's comfortable putting content into the slides? Has everyone put some content in there? Anyone who's feeling like, I don't know how to do it, feeling like you're restricted? If you are restricted, raise your hand and we're gonna ask one of our, not assistants, but our helpers to take you off mute real quick and we can figure out how to get you unstuck. Is anybody stuck? No, okay, it doesn't sound like anyone's stuck. So let's take a look at, so far you all are sharing that we have an administrative role in a community mental health center. Someone's a psychologist in a private practice and work on pro bono cases. Someone is bridging between multiple sectors, public health, as a public health analyst with the CDC Foundation. We have community health workers in this space. Let's see, I can't scroll down, I'm wondering.
That's it.
Hannah, are you able to help me scroll down? Okay,
That's
great.
it at the bottom. I'll keep
So we
scrolling
have,
as it comes
we
in.
have funders in the room. Is anyone feeling like you're like, I'm not exactly sure what my role is? Did anyone have a hard time kind of identifying your space? No, it looks like we're doing good here. So if most of you got a chance to contribute, let's see, is it able, does this push us to multiple slides and we can kind of say we have a nice response from the participants? Put your finger, your thumb up if you feel like I need more time. I don't see anyone saying you need more time. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next slide then. So we've talked about our role. So that's gonna set the context for your, your view. So now let's talk about what is a word that will come to your mind when you hear the phrase healing center. And that's in the context of community, right? So think community, this is that shared geographic space, people working on behalf of people living in that space. So what word? So safe, that's a word that has come up. Any other words? Harmony, okay. Holistic, peaceful, inclusivity. Someone said culturally responsive. You are not going to be bound by the rules. You said, I need 2 words. Okay, any other, what words? And remember, our goal, we don't have to only think about how it's working now. If you think about healing center communities, how will we start a healing center community? How will we get that started at the onset? What is needed? So empathy is getting multiple hits there. You see empathy is getting bigger, equity is getting bigger. So if we had empathy and equity, you all feel like the community perhaps wouldn't need to be repaired? What else would make the community feel healing centered? So I see relationship based, support, validation, listening to what the community is saying and needs. Oh, how would we do that in that context? How does a community, as it's being conceived of, how does it work so that
Well,
people don't have to?
having dealt with violence prevention some years ago and literally walking the streets after a violent event occurred and speaking with neighbors, excuse me, door to door, on the corner, and wherever we found people, we would engage with them and find, okay, so what do you think we need to stop this? What do you think we
Okay.
need to turn the corner on getting these shootings to stop, getting the violence to end?
So you all had
community-
constant dialogue and you
Yeah.
would just
Well,
catch people where they were.
right. We called it community engagement.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Thank you so much for sharing.
Okay.
Did everyone get a chance to enter at least one word? When you hear the phrase healing centered, and remember, we're thinking, how can we repair? How do we move this work forward? But also, we were building a new community that never needed to be repaired. Do we have a good reflection of those terms? Empathy and equity is still on top. Okay. Can I have one person come off mute and just tell me a word that you really had to stretch your mind and say, "Oh, we had this. This would really make our human experience better." Just one person. So you can raise your thumb if you want to be that person.
My one word is openness. I think that it will, require something from all parties involved.
Okay. Openness. I love that. I don't see people use that a lot. So thank you for being creative and for sharing. Let's go ahead. It sounds like a lot of people, I see a lot of terms on the board. We're gonna go to the next slide and see if we can start this conversation. How well does the word that you shared align with your community? Okay, so we're at about 20 or so percent saying that word does not align with your community. Somewhat, no one said very. That's interesting. No one said very. Did everyone get to weigh in yet? Oh, now I feel like I made you all say very. Don't let me stress you. I want to ask a question about the people who said not at all. Can I have one person chime in who said not at all?
It's me, Alita.
Okay.
I
Let
think,
me
yeah, I'm sorry, go on, ask the question.
let me pose the question.
Uh-huh.
So you said not at all. So did your word feel aspirational? It felt like this is totally what's not happening here. Like, what were you thinking? How do you feel about your term that you felt like this is not where I live?
The thing is, because there's so many inequities over here in the neighborhood. I mean, I've lived here my whole life, and then the language barrier. My mom didn't speak English, so I was always translating. There's not a specific place that is designated. Well, like say, you always, she was in a nursing home or whatever, and just kind of related. It kept on happening. I would always have to, I think there's I think it would be nice, like in high school, we always like, oh, you can learn a second language, I mean, and we don't really take that in consideration. It might come in handy one day, wouldn't it be nice to learn a second language,
Okay.
to help? Yeah, it's just a real bad thing over here where it's a necessity now, with a lot of things that are happening now,
Right.
it's changes in the neighborhood.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks, one, for being so transparent about something that is very personal and sounds like also a little painful. So
Thank you.
thank you for sharing that. And for all of you who have been not only seemingly very honest in your sharing, but also aspirational. I'm curious about, can I have one person who said somewhat? I want to ask you a question about the word you used.
I can go.
Okay, Chanel, what word did you use and why did that word come to you because it feels aspirational? Did it feel like this would resolve problems? Is it a repair word? Like, tell us just a little bit, just, about a minute or so, but if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. The first word I chose was safe,
Mm-hmm.
and I chose somewhat because I feel safe on, let's say, a day-to-day basis. My actual house is safe. My neighbors feel safe to me. But as a community as a whole, I'm from Chicago and I'm from the hood. So on a large scale, it's not safe.
Okay.
So yeah, I chose safe and I chose somewhat just because it's almost half and half. Like I technically feel safe, but on
Got
a
it.
larger scale, yeah, it's a dangerous area.
Got
So
it. Okay. Thank you so much, Chanel.
thank you.
Thank you. I live in the hood too, so shout out to the hood. I do want to also ask a quick question to the people who said this word that I use is very representative of it aligns a lot with my community. So can someone jump in real quickly who said very and just share a quick thought?
Well, I'll say a few words about that, and I have to go back to the community engagement piece because when we literally went door to door, block to block, that was probably the most overpowering way to get the community involved. When you knock on someone's door and ask them what do they think, you might get a bunch of answers or you may get one specific. But at least that lets the community know that someone cares about what they think and they want to hear what they have to say.
Okay, and remind us what your word was.
Geez, it got away from me. I think it was listening. Yeah, listening. Listening to
Okay.
what the community has to say.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. All right, you are doing hard work and really helping us to reflect. Again, if we have any time, we'll come back around. But let's go ahead and move to our next slide. I want to get a little more feedback from you. For those of you who selected very and somewhat aligned, what specific actions were taken to achieve this alignment? So that's going to be about 88% of you. So what actions were taken? Then we want to be specific. We want to put ourselves in a position to say, how can we replicate that emotion, that output, that perspective, and look to your list? So go ahead and share some thoughts around specific actions that were taken to help you feel like the term you came up with really highly aligns with the community where you serve or where you live. Anna, would you mind giving me a time check?
Yeah, it's 3:34, so we have about another 15 minutes.
Okay, excellent. I have to try to make this bigger so I can see it. Okay, so you all are responding. So someone said a specific action that was taken was that they had parent and community engagement. Someone said a specific action was resiliency. I want to ask about that. I'm going to put a pin in it. But so someone said you got buy-in from leadership. That's excellent. Education and collaboration. These are specific things that were taken to help you feel like the term that came to mind was being lived out and is actively happening in your community. So there's a lot of real conversation about these issues. I like that because that really lets us know you're being very mindful that the charges around this healing-centered arc of transformation. Training for staff, that's great. The person who did that first one that I wanted to go back to, do you mind coming off and just saying a quick word about resiliency? Because I want to see how the resiliency, what that looks like as an action as opposed to a thing.
Yes, it was me. I couldn't think about an action taken in specific in my
Mhm.
community, but I do recognize our resiliency.
Oh, so the community
Yes,
itself is resilient. You all have that sense of hopefulness, the capacity to kind of be elastic in moments where you're being stressed.
yes,
Okay.
exactly. I think that capacity, it's important to overcome stressors and trauma
Okay.
and a lot of things.
So then does that mean that there is the absence of whatever those attacks are that makes the community
It might
fractured?
be, yeah. I'm just like right now at a loss of words because
Mhm.
I don't know. So
Okay,
I don't want to say yes.
all right, I
Um,
see.
And
But
that's
there is
why
this,
it got
that,
me to think about that. Yes.
okay, well, good, well, thanks. We want to be stretched in our thinking too, so this is helpful. This is great feedback. Someone said, community advocacy for inclusion and acknowledgement. Someone said the city of Champagne's, I went to school in Champaign, community coalition and trauma informed. That person, do you mind jumping on real quick and telling us, is that a group that is a specific action? Like tell us really quickly, is that because that group is doing something or the fact that the group is existing?
It's Irene from Champaign County, U of
Hi,
I
Irene.
territory. Hey, and I see my friend Kelly on here. She's with Trauma Informed. I was on the board with Trauma Informed, and also the city of Champaign has put together a coalition that they
Mhm.
focus on trauma informed awareness.
Okay.
They're doing something, and then when we meet every month with our facilitator, Mr. Tracy Parsons, it's so diverse. You got the university folks, you got community leaders, you got the residents of Champaign, you got me from Head Start and other people. It's really nice.
Excellent.
That's what I mean.
Okay, I see a lot of people are liking, I see, not, I won't say a lot, but that there's a number of people who are using diversity, diverse opinions, diverse perspectives are being invited in. Can we scroll to the top really quickly? I just want to see if we can stop there for a moment. Listening to and elevating disproportionately impacted populations. Do you mind coming off mute and just saying a quick word about that work around elevating disproportionately impacted populations, how you all are, the fact that that work is happening, where does that work sit? I don't want to, just like a short piece, like a minute.
Absolutely. So many times community development practices don't involve the people who are most impacted. So any time that we can, we want to give them the microphone to really be learning from them, elevating them, that they're the ones co-crafting these solutions because they are the experts on their communities.
Oh, I love that. I'm so glad that I got a chance to hear from you and for you to share back with everyone. So thank you for being in the room and for sharing your thoughts about that. Before we go, I think we have at least one more slide. Before we move to the next slide, I want to ask really quickly, was there someone who had a very or somewhat aligned, that your word was aligned with where you're living and doing your work, but you felt like, I don't know what a specific action is? We talked to one person, so the floor is open. Everybody feels safe about it, hopefully. Is there another person who feels like, I don't know why, this just feels like a good space for me? I feel like we're doing the work. We're very aligned, or your thoughts are very aligned with where you're headed. Anyone else who shared that perspective, but you can't put a finger on a specific thing that's happening? Okay, great. Okay, well, let's move to the next slide. Thank you all for sharing. So we're going to go to the people who said not at all. So that was that first column. For those of you who said it, your term, your thought around what would it take, what is needed, that was not really aligned with the space and the community that you're attached to. We want to invite you to also share, what are some steps you would suggest? Because these are things that are not happening. This is our assumption. But what steps would you suggest we should take and should be in place that would improve the alignment?
It's Alita again. I think these collaborations, I mean, we're all coming from different places and different, you know, we have all these different thoughts. It's so great, you know. A lot of these trainings, I was a contact tracer. So, I mean, one of my friends, Chanel's on here too. And starting from that, from all this COVID and going through, you know, all the emotions, you know, us as, you know, contact tracers and going on to everything else and to the neighborhood, you know, experiencing COVID for real, you know, that it was real, you know what I mean? Nobody wanted to get vaccinated. It was so much, you know. I think it's a learning experience. If you go back, like I said, in history, it's just like a whole, it's happening all over again, you know, epidemics, pandemics, you know, and then just kind of, like I said, just learn from all this and just, you know, to the next generation, right?
Okay. So Alita, are you dropping a comment on this slide that maybe has something that's going to represent your thought around we should learn from history? I feel like that's an important perspective.
Yeah.
We say that all the time, but for some
Right.
reason we don't.
Well, yeah, I think, you know what, it broadened my understanding because I took biology in high school, never paid attention. And then I went back into like where it all really starts, you know what I'm saying? I mean, where is it coming from? How do we kind of stop it? It was just, you know, all the things that, you know, we were led to believe, you know, it was everyone just kind of the hesitancy. We had to learn what the word was, why people were being hesitant, you know, in different communities, you know, and then going through like the door knocking and going door to door and asking people, you know, I mean, really just surveying, you know, and listening to what the needs were. They needed masks, they needed sanitizer, we need more, you know, where are these shots available? It made it a whole partnership. You know, I really, yeah, it was really great, I think, you know, I mean, it had its ups and downs, you know.
And I also want to, I like that I see some of you connecting. This is wonderful. We need some more connections out of the community group. I mean, like, this is us, right?
Right.
So at least see one connection. You all put in the chat if there's any more connections that get made out of community. I'm not saying we're in competition, but community ought to be building community. But I also like the fact that you all are talking about the COVID responsiveness and all of the work that happened there, which a lot of times people sometimes after that crisis, we put it over here and then now we go back to our work. And this really is a conversation from all the more margins and all the corners, like all of the work matters. So one of you said affordable housing. Someone said a major system and structural overhaul with collaboration between grass tops and grassroots. I love that. I need a t-shirt with that on it. Policy change, reparations, funding, changing the hearts and minds. This person should be running for political office and putting egos to the side. Yeah, I now need all these on t-shirts. And accessibility, absolutely. And we know accessibility can mean language, it might mean physical, it might mean emotional accessibility, it might mean how we invite people in that might even have some level of, they may be dysregulated and all that, but everyone has a perspective and it's important. So no, thanks for running for office, but I appreciate the compliment. Oh, okay, okay. Is it Veronica? That's what you say right now, we'll see.
No, it's Venancia or Dr. V,
Venancia.
whichever's easier.
That's a beautiful name. I will remember that name if at some point you change your mind.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go. Let's see. I believe we have one more slide. Getting fathers more involved in community. That's wonderful. Please go ahead and add that. Hannah, they're able to still add slides even though we move forward, yes?
I think so, but I'm not entirely sure. But if you put it in the chat, we'll capture it there too.
Okay, great. It is in there. And so now let's talk. What external conditions are positively influencing your community environments? Okay, let's go. In external conditions, we're not just talking about snow, increased awareness, violence. Now, remember, this question is about positively influencing your community. Now, somebody might say violence is positive. Maybe if so, I want to ask you a question about it, but go ahead. Let's see. We have 2, 3 trauma-informed initiatives everywhere. They are really